Another episode of Unscripted. This is the Kelly Cardenas podcast, and I am your host, Kelly Cardenas. I want to thank you all for tuning in. It has been an incredible journey. Today we're covering Proverbs 9, and I tell you, this morning when I woke up, actually before I went to bed, even last night, I was studying on this, and I was so excited about Proverbs 9 because it has some great wisdom, some incredible insight. And I look forward to bringing it to you today. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for rocking with the podcast. I appreciate you. My big brother, Rob, sent me a message yesterday encouraging me. My buddy, Wayne, my buddy, Gino, thank you so much. So with no more further ado, let's get to the show.
Cause we believin', it's for certain, we put the work in. We ain't stopped just because it's hurting. Right before your eyes, so it's coming to no surprise. The takeover is televised. Over and over and over again. Make no mistake, we continue to win. Defeat never known, cause I will not lose. They wanna mimic my moves, but can't walk in my shoes.
That is the Vibe Room. Welcome back to the Kelly Cardenas podcast, where attitude is everything. That was the Vibe Room. It's a live version of the podcast. There are so many people asking to be able to meet the people that I interview on this show, and we now have it. It's a speakeasy environment. It's a 60s jazz club in Salt Lake City. It's called the Vibe Room. And we add the musical element. We bring the people in, which is amazing. That's not the reason why you came this morning. We're breaking down Proverbs, and for the next 31 days, I'm going to be going through the corresponding proverb for the corresponding day. My wife told me it won't be the profound that really impacts your life. It'll be the simple. It'll be the things that you do every single day. And this has been a thing that I've been doing, for the better part of 30 years. So I said yesterday that I'm not a Bible scholar, but I have been reading it and studying it for the last 30 years. I have my Bible with me at all times, and I go to the beach in the morning and read the corresponding proverb for the corresponding day. With no further ado, let's hop right in. Proverbs 9. It's a very short one for those of you who, weren't great readers like me. When I was growing up, I was scared to, number one, talk in front of people. Number two, I was afraid to read because I would stutter. And so there's going to be times where when I read the actual text, my eyes, you notice my glasses, these are my wife blesses me with them, or sometimes I steal them. But there will be pauses in it and things like that because growing up, I wasn't the greatest reader, and I still am not, but I still work at it. So give yourself the permission. Proverbs 9. Again, let's jump right in. It's got about, 16 or 18 verses. Very short proverb, but amazingly impactful, amazingly insightful. And the title of the proverb is Invitation of Wisdom and Folly. And that, to me, right off the bat, it was like, oh, wow, both of them are inviting me into their life. Folly, or, foolish behavior, and wisdom. So I would like to think that I would choose wisdom, but I don't always. But here it is. It kind of breaks down and gives you a pattern of what wisdom's going to say to you, what folly is going to say to you. And then also it talks about what happens when you correct a fool or a person who's wise. It talks about how to become wise, ramifications of wisdom, and then an invitation to folly, like I said. So let's start with the first one, the invitation of wisdom. And this is from verse 1 through 6. The invitation of wisdom, first of all, it starts off and it talks about that there's a firm foundation with wisdom, and there's 7 pillars, and that it has prepared a meal for you. And that's in verse 1 through 3. Then it goes on to say, let all who are simple come to my house. To those who have no sense, she says, come eat my food, drink the wine I have mixed. Leave your simple ways, and you will live. Walk in the way of insight. So think of that, right? Calling out to the simple people, the people that are out there, they're, kind of going their own way. Hey, come on with me. My foundation is firm. I've set up 7 pillars. I've created a meal for you. I've mixed the wine. Come and sit with me and gain insight. So on point number 2, it goes into, in verse 7 through 9, it talks about what happens when you correct a fool or you correct a wise person. So the contrast, and this always confused me because when I read it, it said, whoever corrects a mocker invites insults. Whoever rebukes the wicked incurs abuse. Well, for then, I'm not going to tell anyone who's on the wrong path. I don't want to do that. I don't want to tell them because I'm going to get abused. They're not going to take it. They're not going to receive what I'm talking about. Then it comes back. Again, do not rebuke mockers or they will hate you. And this is in verse 8, and it says, rebuke the wise and they will love you. Well, then I want to rebuke the wise. I want to tell the wise when maybe they're not doing something great because they'll love me, but mockers, they'll hate me. And in verse 10, this is where it was. So actually in verse 9, it says, instruct the wise and they will be wiser still. Teach the righteous and they will add to their learning. So we see in this what happens when we correct a fool. They just get mad. They abuse us. They're nasty to us. When we correct the wise, guess what? They become wiser. They love us. They want to honor us. So in verse 10, here it goes. How can you become wise then? And it gives it right here. It's the blueprint. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and knowledge of the Holy One is understanding. So if you want to gain wisdom, which is the right use of knowledge, you simply have to fear God or respect God. And the knowledge of the Holy One, meaning that when we focus in on the knowledge of Him, the reading the Word, getting to know Him, having a relationship, not about religion, not about going to church, but just about having a relationship with God, you and Him personally, what starts to happen is He gives you understanding. And so think of that. Wisdom is the right use of knowledge. If you get knowledge, you have wisdom, you could use it right. But to have knowledge, you have to have understanding. And then understanding creates insight. The insight creates discretion. The discretion creates discipline. The discipline will create strength. And the strength will lead you right back to the respect or fear of God, which will give you wisdom. So this kind of blew my mind in it. And what I looked at was in point number 4 is the ramifications of wisdom or folly. And that was in verse 11 and 12. For through wisdom, your days will be many and your years will be added to your life. Yay, like that sounds good to me. That's what I want. If you are wise, your wisdom will reward you. If you are a mocker, you alone will suffer. So the setup, right? It gives you the invitation to wisdom, right? Come and I got a firm foundation, 7 pillars. I prepared a meal, wine. Come sit with me and you'll gain insight. What happens when you correct a fool? Well, you get abused, they don't listen to you, and they become even more foolish. What happens when you correct the wise? Well, that means that they get wiser still, they love you, they honor you. And then how can we become wise? Well, fear of God, that's it. And knowledge of the Holy One, which will give us understanding. Then the ramifications, right? The ramifications are verse 11 and 12. Wisdom will give you many more days to be added to your life. If you're wise, wisdom will reward you. If you're a mocker, you alone will suffer. Imagine that. And then we finish up here. And this is amazing because in verse, point number 5 is the invitation of folly, right? And I believe that it runs down this way on purpose. And the Proverbs are so insightful because it's almost like a little bit of wordplay, right? A little bit of wordplay takes you on a story, takes you on a journey. And this journey ends with the invitation to folly. Watch this. In verse 13 through 18, folly is an unruly woman, right? So she's unruly and she knows nothing. And knows nothing. She sits at her door of her house on a seat in the highest point of the city, calling out to the passerby who go straight on their way. Let all who are simple come to my house. To those who have no sense, she says, stolen water is sweet. Food eaten in secret is delicious, but little do they know that the dead are there, that her guests are deep in the realm of the dead. But watch this. This is what I noticed when I read through this. The invitation for folly is exactly the same as the invitation to the wise. Let's go back to verse, let's go back to verse 3. She has sent out her servants, and she calls from the highest point of the city, let all who are simple come to my house. Let those who have no sense, she says, come and eat my food. Let's drop down to verse 16. That first one was the invitation of wisdom. This is the invitation of folly. Let all who are simple come to my house. To those who have no sense, she says, stolen water is sweet. It's just the reward is different. And it already broke it down for us. So it's amazing how God is able to do this, because the fear of God, for the fear of God, when we become fearful of God or respectful of God, what starts to happen, he starts to give us wisdom. Well, that wisdom will let us know whether we want to choose to be wise or to be a fool. And it's incredible because the call is exactly the same. They call out to the simple. That's what it says. It says it calls out to the simple, calls out to those who have no sense. They both call, but who will you listen to? And the way that we could distinguish between the two voices is simply the fear of God. So Proverbs 9, like I said, what I would do is I would jump into it. Don't take my word for it. Any of these things is just my translation. I'm not a Bible scholar, but I have stayed at a Holiday Inn Express, and these things are my interpretation. So in no way am I saying focus on me. I'm saying focus on the word. Read it and allow it to read you. I want to thank you again for being on another episode of Unscripted. I have had a phenomenal time. I hope you have an incredible, incredible, incredible day. I want you to be encouraged. And remember, the fear of God is the beginning of wisdom. And when you have wisdom, everything else falls in line. So I implore you today, be encouraged and choose wisdom. I am officially off the hot seat. Peace, love, and soul.